When people hear the word discipline, their minds often immediately associate it with rules, restrictions, and limitations. It feels like a word that takes away freedom rather than giving it. Yet, when we look deeper into life, when we examine the people who have truly mastered their craft, built meaningful relationships, and reached their highest potential, we find that the opposite is true. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is its truest form. Without discipline, freedom becomes chaos. Without discipline, opportunity is wasted. Without discipline, the potential within us never takes form. The reality is simple. The more disciplined you are, the freer you become. Think for a moment about the simple act of time. Every person on this planet is given the same 24 hours a day. But what separates one individual from another is not the hours they receive, but the discipline with which they use them. A person without discipline will waste hours scrolling, sleeping too long, jumping from one distraction to another, and then complaining at the end of the day about how little they accomplished. Another person with the same 24 hours sets a rule for themselves to wake up early, to structure their day, to focus on what truly matters, and to commit to small, consistent actions. At the end of the day, that disciplined person feels free because they created time for growth, time for progress, time for dreams. Discipline did not steal their hours, it gave them back. Freedom without discipline is like giving a child unlimited candy. At first, it feels joyful, liberating, full of indulgence. But without rules, without moderation, that freedom leads to sickness, imbalance, and pain. Real freedom is not about doing whatever we want whenever we want. Real freedom comes from having the power to direct our lives with intention, and the only way to gain that power is through discipline. If you cannot control yourself, then something else will control you: habits, addictions, procrastination, or even other people. Discipline is the key that ensures you are in charge of your own life. Let's talk about dreams. Everyone dreams of success, love, health, and happiness, but dreaming alone does not bring results. Dreams without discipline stay locked in the imagination, beautiful but unreachable. Discipline is what turns vision into reality. The artist who wants to paint a masterpiece cannot wait for inspiration alone. They must discipline themselves to show up daily in front of the canvas. The athlete who dreams of victory cannot rely solely on talent. They must discipline their body, their diet, and their training. The entrepreneur who wishes to build a business cannot just hope for luck. They must discipline their habits, their time, their decisions. Talent may open a door, but only discipline keeps it open long enough to step inside. One of the greatest forms of discipline is self-control. It is easy to give in to anger, to snap back when insulted, to lose patience when things don't go our way. But every time we lose control, we lose freedom, because we hand over our peace and clarity to an external situation. True strength lies in discipline of the mind, the ability to stay calm under pressure, to act with intention rather than impulse, to choose wisdom over reaction. When you discipline your emotions, you gain freedom from regret, because you no longer have to apologize for words said in haste or decisions made in anger. Self-control is freedom from chaos. Look at health as another example. Some people see eating healthy or exercising regularly as a burden, a restriction. They think of discipline as sacrifice, yet what is the alternative? A life without discipline in health may feel like freedom in the moment. You eat whatever you want, you skip the gym whenever you feel lazy. But in the long run, that so-called freedom becomes chains of illness, low energy, dependency on medicine. On the other hand, when you discipline your body, when you set rules about what you eat and how you move, you may give up a few pleasures in the short term, but you gain freedom in the long term. the freedom to live with energy, to run, to travel, to enjoy life without being held back by sickness. Discipline today is freedom tomorrow. Discipline also applies to relationships. A relationship without boundaries, without respect, without discipline quickly falls into imbalance. When people say whatever they feel without thought, when they act on every impulse without care, when they fail to honor commitments, trust is destroyed. But when two people discipline themselves to communicate with honesty, to listen even when they disagree, to control anger, and to remain faithful to promises, that discipline creates freedom, the freedom to love deeply, to trust fully, to grow together without fear. Love without discipline is passion that burns quickly and fades. Love with discipline is fire that warms for a lifetime. Discipline is also the foundation of financial freedom. Without it, money slips through fingers like sand. People who live without budgeting, without saving, without discipline in spending often find themselves enslaved by debt. They chase every desire, buy every impulse, and at the end of the month, they feel trapped. Others may think saving and budgeting is boring, restrictive, and too structured, but in reality, it is this very structure that creates freedom. When you discipline yourself financially, you can afford opportunities others cannot. You can travel, invest, or even retire earlier because you chose rules over recklessness. Freedom is not found in spending everything. It is found in disciplined choices that secure the future. The truth is that discipline and freedom are not opposites. They are partners. The disciplined student becomes the free adult. The disciplined worker becomes the free leader. The disciplined mind becomes the free thinker. Every form of freedom we admire in life is built on a foundation of discipline. Even nature itself follows discipline. The sun rises and sets with precision. The seasons follow a rhythm. The ocean tides obey their timing. Imagine if nature had no discipline. Chaos would consume the world. If the universe itself is held together by discipline, why should human life be any different? Discipline is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It does not mean you never make mistakes, but it means you choose to return to your path again and again. A disciplined person knows that one failure is not the end. They wake up and try again. They practice until practice becomes second nature. They refuse to quit even when the results are slow. And in this persistence, they find freedom. The freedom to rise above setbacks, the freedom to overcome limitations, the freedom to shape destiny with their own hands. So many people confuse comfort with freedom. They think if they avoid effort, avoid challenge, avoid rules, they are living freely. But comfort is not freedom. It is a silent prison. Comfort keeps people where they are, while discipline takes them where they want to go. Comfort whispers, "Stay here, it's easy." But discipline shouts, "Move forward, there's more." And when you choose discipline over comfort, you discover that the temporary sacrifice was worth the permanent reward. Discipline creates a mindset that refuses to be controlled by external forces. You stop living as a victim of circumstances and start living as the author of your own story. You stop waiting for luck and start creating opportunity. You stop complaining about time and start mastering it. And the irony is, once discipline becomes part of your life, it no longer feels like a restriction. It feels like a rhythm, a flow, a guiding force that makes everything else simpler. Decisions become easier because you have set rules for yourself. Distractions lose power because you know where you are headed. Fear loses grip because you trust in the strength of your own consistency. Freedom without discipline is an illusion, a trap that leads to regret, wasted potential, and unfulfilled dreams. But freedom with discipline is real, lasting, and transformative. It is the kind of freedom that allows you to live fully, love deeply, create boldly, and leave behind a legacy that speaks long after you are gone. Growth is not an accident. It is not something that falls into place by luck or by chance. Growth is intentional, and it happens when life is lived with focus, direction, and discipline. At the heart of true growth lies two powerful forces: boundaries and structure. Without boundaries, our energy scatters in 1,000 directions, leaving us drained and frustrated. Without structure, our dreams remain daydreams, never crossing over into reality. It is easy to underestimate these two principles, but the truth is, no meaningful progress can ever take place without them. Boundaries are the invisible lines we draw around our time, our energy, and our emotions. They are not about keeping people out, but about keeping our focus in. Imagine a river. When water flows without boundaries, it floods everywhere, destroying everything in its path. But when that same water is directed by the boundaries of a riverbank, it creates energy, momentum, and movement that can generate power. In the same way, when life is lived without boundaries, our time and emotions leak into unproductive areas. We say yes to everything, we try to please everyone, and we stretch ourselves so thin that we lose our strength. But when we establish clear boundaries, we create direction. Our energy stops leaking and starts flowing toward things that truly matter. Many people mistake boundaries as selfishness, but they are actually an act of self-respect. Saying no is one of the hardest disciplines, yet it is also one of the most powerful. Every time we say yes to something that does not serve our growth, we are saying no to something that could. Without boundaries, we become prisoners of other people's demands and expectations. With boundaries, we take ownership of our lives. Boundaries remind us that our time is valuable, our energy is limited, and our dreams are worthy of protection. But boundaries alone are not enough. Boundaries create space, while structure fills that space with purpose. A life without structure is like a building without a blueprint. No matter how much material you have, no matter how much passion you carry, without a plan it collapses. Structure is what organizes effort into progress. It transforms chaos into clarity. Structure does not mean rigidity. It means intentional design. It means creating habits, routines, and systems that allow growth to happen steadily. Think of the student who dreams of excelling in studies. Without structure, they study randomly whenever they feel like it, without direction or consistency. Their energy is there, but it is scattered. With structure, they create a study schedule, set goals, follow a routine, and measure their progress. Suddenly, the same amount of effort produces 10 times the result. Why? Because structure channels energy like a magnifying glass channels sunlight into fire. Structure is focus in action. The same is true in health. Many people say they want to be fit, but without boundaries around what they eat and without structure in their exercise routine, that desire never materializes. They snack whenever they feel like it, skip workouts when they are tired, and tell themselves they will start tomorrow. But growth does not come from wishful thinking. Growth comes from rules we set for ourselves, boundaries that stop us from indulging in things that weaken us, and structures that keep us consistent even when motivation fades. When a person disciplines themselves with structure, like exercising at the same time every morning or preparing healthy meals in advance, they begin to see transformation. Their body changes, but so does their confidence, because they realize growth is not about trying harder, it is about structuring smarter. Boundaries also play a crucial role in relationships. Without them, people lose themselves. They give too much, tolerate too much, or compromise too much until they no longer recognize their own identity. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, and that respect comes from boundaries. When someone disrespects your time and you allow it, they learn to devalue you. But when you set a boundary and communicate your worth, you teach them how to treat you. Boundaries do not push people away, they attract the right ones. And when two people honor each other's boundaries, trust flourishes. Structure is equally vital in relationships. Love alone is not enough to sustain a partnership. It needs a framework. Couples who grow together create rituals, shared habits, and consistent efforts. Whether it's a weekly check-in, a daily act of kindness, or intentional communication, structure keeps love alive. Relationships fall apart not because love disappears, but because structure is neglected. When people stop prioritizing time together, stop setting boundaries with external distractions, and stop building habits that nurture connection, growth halts. But when structure is present, love deepens and strengthens with time. Growth in careers also demands both boundaries and structure. Without boundaries, work consumes every moment, leading to burnout and resentment. Without structure, productivity declines and opportunities slip through fingers. Successful professionals are those who set boundaries around distractions, who know when to say no to tasks that do not align with their goals, and who create structures to manage their time effectively. They plan their day, prioritize important work, and stick to systems that ensure steady progress. Others may see them as strict, but in truth, their discipline creates space for creativity and freedom. Boundaries protect us from external chaos, while structure protects us from internal chaos. We all face distractions from the outside world, people, demands, noise, but we also battle distractions within ourselves, laziness, doubt, procrastination. Boundaries silence the external noise, while structure silences the internal one. Together, they create an environment where growth can flourish. Even nature operates by these two principles. Trees grow because their roots are bound within the soil, giving them strength and direction. The structure of seasons ensures balance: spring for growth, summer for fruit, autumn for shedding, winter for rest. Imagine if seasons had no structure, if they came and went randomly, the entire ecosystem would collapse. Growth in nature, just like in life, depends on boundaries and structure. One of the greatest realizations is that freedom without structure is a trap. Many people believe that avoiding routines or rules makes life exciting. They avoid boundaries because they want to live freely, but over time that kind of freedom turns into restlessness. Without boundaries, they are pulled in every direction. Without structure, they waste years without progress. On the other hand, those who embrace structure and boundaries may feel restricted in the moment, but eventually they discover that this very discipline gave them the freedom to live the life they dreamed of. Think of an artist again. Without boundaries, they say yes to every project, stretch themselves too thin, and end up uninspired. Without structure, they wait endlessly for motivation, creating only when they feel like it. Their gift remains untapped. But with boundaries, they say no to distractions and protect time for their art. With structure, they create daily, even when uninspired, and eventually, masterpieces emerge. The world remembers those who respected their boundaries and honored their structure because they produced something lasting. It is important to remember that growth is never accidental. A person who succeeds in any area of life has intentionally set rules for themselves, consciously built boundaries, and designed structures that guided their actions. Growth is not about luck, and it is not even about talent alone. It is about design. It is about consciously choosing how to live. Every time you set a boundary, you are saying, "This is what I value, and I will not compromise." Every time you create structure, you are saying, "This is the direction I choose, and I will stay on it until I arrive." The challenge is that boundaries often bring discomfort, and structure often feels boring. It is easier to say yes than to say no, easier to live without a plan than to follow one. But growth is never found in ease. Growth is found in the discipline of boundaries and the persistence of structure. The discomfort of saying no today becomes the strength of success tomorrow. The boredom of routine today becomes the brilliance of results tomorrow. So, growth is not about having endless energy or infinite time. It is about channeling what we already have through the lenses of boundaries and structure. Without these, life is noise, effort is wasted, and potential is buried. With these, life is focus, effort multiplies, and potential is unleashed. Boundaries protect what is precious, and structure gives it direction. Together, they transform ordinary lives into extraordinary journeys. Integrity is one of the most powerful and timeless qualities a person can carry. It is the invisible rule that shapes every decision, every action, and every relationship. It is what defines character in the moments when no one is watching, and determines how a person is remembered long after they are gone. Success without integrity may shine brightly for a moment, but it fades like a spark in the wind. Success with integrity endures like a flame that lights the way for generations. Integrity is not just about being honest in words. It is about aligning your actions with your values, even when it costs you. It is about keeping promises, honoring principles, and doing the right thing even when the wrong thing seems easier. When people think of legacy, they often imagine wealth, achievements, or titles. Yet, history shows us that people rarely remember how much money someone made or what possessions they owned. What lingers in memory is character, how that person treated others, how trustworthy they were, how consistently they lived by their values. Integrity builds legacy because it speaks to the heart of who someone is, not just what they accomplished. A brilliant career without integrity leaves behind doubt, but even small deeds done with integrity leave behind trust and respect that echo far beyond a lifetime. Integrity requires courage. It is easy to be honest when honesty costs nothing. It is much harder to remain truthful when the truth threatens to bring loss or difficulty, but that is where character is tested. In moments of temptation, when compromise seems convenient, integrity asks for strength. The person who cheats to gain an advantage may enjoy a short victory, but deep inside they know it is hollow. The one who holds to their principles, even when it means waiting longer or working harder, builds a foundation of confidence and self-respect. Integrity is not only about what others think of you, it is about what you think of yourself when you look in the mirror. Trust is the currency of human connection, and integrity is what builds trust. Relationships, whether personal or professional, rise and fall on trust. A promise broken, a lie told, or a betrayal of values destroys years of trust in a moment. On the other hand, a life of consistent honesty, reliability, and fairness builds trust so deep that it becomes unshakable. This trust is what people remember because it gives them a sense of security in a world often filled with uncertainty. A person of integrity does not need to convince others of their worth. Their actions speak so clearly that words are unnecessary. Integrity also means being the same person in public and in private. It means not wearing a mask depending on the situation or the people around you. A life lived with integrity has no need for double standards. The words spoken on a stage match the actions taken in silence. The kindness shown to a stranger reflects the same respect given to a friend. The discipline kept when eyes are watching remains when no one is there. This consistency is rare, but it is what makes people unforgettable. Others may achieve temporary fame through deception or manipulation, but fame without integrity collapses quickly, leaving nothing but broken trust. There is also a quiet power in integrity. It does not always make headlines or draw immediate applause, but it builds a strength that cannot be shaken by external storms. The person who lives with integrity carries peace of mind because they have nothing to hide. They do not waste energy covering lies or fearing exposure. They walk with calmness because truth protects them. They stand tall because their foundation is strong. Even when circumstances are difficult, integrity provides stability, like an anchor in the middle of the storm. Integrity is also a guide in decision making. Life is full of choices, big and small, and often the right path is not the easiest one. When faced with temptation, shortcuts, or questionable opportunities, integrity becomes the compass that points to what is right. Without this compass, people drift, making choices based on convenience or fear. With integrity, choices become clearer because the question is no longer what is easiest, but what aligns with my values. This clarity prevents regret, because even if the outcome is difficult, the person knows they chose rightly. The legacy of integrity often outlives achievements. History remembers leaders, teachers, creators, and parents who lived with integrity more than it remembers those who merely accumulated wealth. People may not recall the exact words spoken or the exact awards received, but they will always remember how they were made to feel, how they were treated, and how consistent that person's character was. A life of integrity creates ripples that touch others in ways unseen. One act of honesty inspires another. One example of fairness shapes generations. One display of courage in holding to values becomes a story retold long after the person is gone. Integrity is not about perfection. Everyone makes mistakes and no one is free from flaws. But integrity means owning those mistakes, apologizing when wrong, and making things right. It is the humility to admit imperfection and the strength to correct it. People do not expect perfection, but they respect honesty. The absence of integrity is not mistakes. It is pretending, hiding, or refusing to take responsibility. The presence of integrity is not a flawless life, but a genuine one. Even in small things, integrity matters. Returning what is not yours, keeping promises made casually, telling the truth when lying would be easier. These small choices add up. They form habits, and habits form character. Integrity is not only tested in grand moments of life, but in the quiet daily decisions that shape who we are. Over time, those choices build a reputation, and that reputation becomes the legacy we leave behind. It is also important to see how integrity connects to inner freedom. A person without integrity lives constantly in fear of being exposed. They carry the weight of secrets, lies, and pretenses. They are never fully free because they are trapped by the web they created. A person with integrity, however, lives lightly. They have no need to pretend, no fear of discovery, no anxiety about being revealed. Their life is open, and this openness gives them freedom. Integrity may seem like a rule that restricts, but in truth it liberates. Integrity also creates influence. People listen to those they trust. They follow those who are consistent. They are inspired by those whose actions align with their words. Influence without integrity is manipulation, but influence with integrity is leadership. A leader with integrity does not need to force people to follow. People choose to follow because they trust. This kind of influence multiplies far beyond one lifetime. shaping not only individuals but entire communities. The world constantly tempts people to compromise integrity in exchange for faster results. Lies appear easier than truth. Cutting corners seems quicker than doing things right. Betraying values can look like the only way forward. But every compromise chips away at character, and every act of dishonesty plants seeds of regret. Integrity is the choice to take the long road, to believe that lasting success is better than temporary gain. The journey may take longer, but the foundation built will never crumble. At its core, integrity is love for truth. It is the willingness to face reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. It is respect for others and for oneself. It is the belief that life is too short to waste on lies, pretenses, or false images. It is the rule that creates meaning in everything else we do. Without integrity, even the greatest achievement feels hollow. With integrity, even the smallest act becomes sacred. Legacy is not measured by applause or recognition, but by the quiet respect carried in the hearts of those who knew you. It is built in the moments of choice, in the words kept true, in the actions that align with principles. Wealth fades, beauty fades, fame fades, but integrity endures. It becomes the story people tell, the example they follow, the inspiration they pass on. And in this way, integrity is not just a rule for life. It is the foundation of a life that continues to speak long after the voice has gone.